Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is going to be more of a sensitive topic, so trigger warning now. Um, I will definitely be diving into things that will not make you comfortable, and most notably, I will be talking about sexual abuse and sexual assault and memory. So just be warned now that this is what I'm going to be talking about, and please, please, please reach out for help if this is what you're struggling with. One of the things that's been going on in the news, especially in the US, is the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination and Dr. Christine Blasey Ford coming forth and saying, some 30 plus years ago, he sexually assaulted me, and this is why I think he's not fit to be a Supreme Court justice. And so this is something that definitely has the country divided. It has family members divided. It actually, sadly enough, even has people in my own therapy community divided, which is so infuriating, so upsetting to just hear the things that people say. I just have to just state categorically, if you have been assaulted, I believe you. There are therapists who believe you. Okay, I usually don't get too passionate or up on the soapbox about things, but as therapists, we often are trained to be very, um, like we keep things kind of close, and we don't share a whole bunch about ourselves, because we want the client to come in and have this blank slate and feel like they can just throw anything at us and it can stick. But I'm going to tell you a secret that many clients don't know, but I think that they should know, and people should just know in general about therapists. Yes, we have a bunch of experience and a bunch of education, but we also have our personal experiences that come in. We have our personal experiences with clients. We have our personal experiences with our family. Many of us have our own traumas, right? Some of us are conservative, some of us are liberal, some of us are independent. People will tell you, and this is going to be definitely controversial, but I don't care. Therapists are going to tell you, or judges or whoever are going to tell you, well, it's my personal life. I don't bring it into my sessions or into my work. But most of us work, and we have had days where something happened at home and we came into work and we were feeling like shit. And it affected our ability to work. So it's actually not true that what we've experienced doesn't affect how we present at work, in our work as therapists. We are able to, if we're good therapists, recognize that this is our own stuff coming in and kind of put it aside and go for the needs of the client. But, other people can't. And in my not so humble opinion, if you are a therapist who will sit here and try to tell me about playing devil's advocate with the whole Supreme Court nomination thing and, this is ruining a man's life and men get falsely accused, then I would never recommend a person who's an assault survivor or a rape survivor or a child sexual abuse survivor to work with you, because there's just no place for that at all in the therapy room. And you can say that thought doesn't creep into your head, but the fact that you broadcast it and you share it means that you're thinking about it. And that's not a thought I would ever have after doing this work for, I don't know, 9 years, 9 years as a therapist. Before that, working in group homes, seeing little children who are 5 years old who have extreme behaviors and attachment problems because they were sexually abused before they even had words, right? Who live in a group home, which means in order to live in a group home, your behavior is so severe that not only can you not stay with a family member in foster home after being removed from your own family, right? But you can't even stay in a foster home. And in California, there's different levels. With the highest level used to be, I don't think they have it anymore, a level 14, because we don't lock children up. We don't put them in the hospital. I mean, that's reserved for like suicide or, homicidal tendencies. Other than that, we place children. We try to put them with families. And these are little kids, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds. I worked with them who would just say all kinds of things and have nightmares about being abused and would abuse other children, not because they're nefarious and horrible children, but because they don't know any better, right? Because it was done to them and they don't understand. They don't understand that what they're doing is wrong. They're just playing, reenacting it, right? They're little. All because a grown up or a teenager did something to them and they had their power taken away. So my intent initially when I was going through this video was to talk about trauma and memory. And I ended up going on this whole something else because as I was always thinking, I just felt like it was more important for people who watch my videos, for my clients, for any survivor out there, just to know that there are therapists, wonderful, great therapists who believe you and will work with you and have hope for you, right? That it doesn't have to be something that cripples you. And whether or not you choose to press charges or go forward or tell your story out to the world or, in legal proceedings, it's enough that your therapist knows and understands and helps you, that you have a loved one, a spouse, a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a best friend who you can share these things with. They can hold it and they can support you when you go through times like this, when the world is not nice to you and the world tells you that what you feel doesn't matter. And one of the ways that you can find a good therapist, wow, yeah, this video totally turned out different than I intended. Sorry, we are not talking about memory because otherwise this is going to be a 15-minute long video. One of the ways that I really, really encourage you when you're seeking out help from a therapist is to not only do a Google search and check on places like Psychology Today or Good Therapy or what have you, but when you get on the phone and you talk to this person, right? Because you should be interviewing your therapist. Don't just pick them because they say, oh, I do EMDR or I do sensory. Talk to them, right? Get to know them. Trust your gut when you're on the phone with them, and whether it tells you like, okay, this person, yay or nay, right? Really trust yourself. It won't steer you wrong. But ask them. Ask them point blank about this, what's going on in the news. What are your feelings? What do you think about people who are sexually assaulted? Do you think that, me 30 years later, I would have forgotten this? Would you believe me? What if I press charges? How do you feel about the Brett Kavanaugh, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford hearings? Ask them directly. See what they say. If they hesitate, I'm gonna be real. If they hesitate in any way, next. Because there should be no hesitation. Yeah, I believe you could remember that. Maybe I will say a little bit about memory, because I'll tell you how you'll remember that. So the truth is, memory is incredibly, incredibly complex. My mentor, Dr. Bruce Perry, who I think is just absolutely amazing in the work he does in the brain and how it all kind of plays a part with complex traumas, said something that was just brilliant. And this is what he said: capacity to bring elements of one moment in time to another moment in time. This is memory. We have different types of memory. You have your cognitive memory, right? What you think about. I kind of think of it as like your inner voice, right? So your thoughts. You have your emotional memory, how you're feeling, right? You can think of it like your thoughts are up here in your prefrontal cortex. This is the part that develops last, right? And continues growing. Happens when you're a little bit older. You've got your limbic brain, right? Your emotional brain houses all the emotions. Just below that, you have your brainstem, right? Brainstem is what is developed first. It happens when you're in utero. So basically, what's already there is what you're gonna get. So what your mom experiences when she's pregnant with you matters, right? That's really complex. I'm not getting into it, but just know that that's basically that part. It's kind of held already. There's some playing around that can happen, but it's pretty much developed. So your emotional brain is what develops in infancy, in toddlerhood, right? So you have those, and then you have your motor vestibular memory. You're talking about physical movements. So what happens in trauma is that you have this terribly, terribly frightening experience that happens. And typically on a normal day when you're happy or you're sad, something's going on, information comes in through the five senses. It gets matched up against things that are already what's already in your brain, and you kind of can go up here. You goes through it literally goes up, right? Goes through here. This is the where it gets processed here, or this is where it starts. Emotions play a little factor, and then up top is where you do the processing, right? This is up here is where you are thinking about it. That's where the inner voice comes in. Abstract thinking, the curbing of the impulses, it's all here. So it happens really fast. So you make like a split second decision. But it happens, right? Normal. But in a traumatic event, this top part gets cut off. It's not there. All that matters in a frightening, terrifying, overwhelming experience where your body feels like, oh my God, I'm going to die. This is a horrible threat. I need to protect myself. You get fight, flight, or freeze. For children, they typically don't do the fighting. They don't do the fleeing because the person is bigger than them. They're overpower them. So they will freeze. Many people who've experienced sexual abuse or sexual assault, even into adulthood, if they can't get out, they will freeze. The body's like, all right, I'm going to prepare myself for being hurt. This part gets cut off, and the only thing that's online is the lower part. Traumatic incident happens. Once it's over, the body starts slowly coming back online. Once it feels like it's safe, everything starts to work together. And what happens is the trauma gets trapped, right? It's stored in the body because that part is still online, even though you don't have cognition about it. You have emotions attached because you were frightened, so that's how your body knew what chemicals to send, and et cetera, and what to inhibit, aka keep the thinking parts out. And voila, that's memory. So your brain keeps a record of that. So when you're walking down the street years later, or even the next day, if you're a child and it's somebody who lives in your home, you hear that door open, your brain goes, wait a minute, this just happened, hold on, and it starts to flood, right? It's matching against what has already happened. And instead of it taking longer for the stress response in the system to kind of kick on, it kicks on a lot faster, so you feel almost out of control. Your brain needs to remember those cues. That's why survivors remember the details, such as who the person is. They don't remember when it happened, the day it happened, because that's abstract thought. That's up here, and this part is cut off during the event. But your body needs to know who that person is because they have to prepare themselves for being harmed. It's like, hey, look out, right? It's like you burn your hand on the stove one time, you're not going to do it again. You see stove and you remember, oh, stove is hot. You don't have to tell yourself stove is hot, right? You just know when you see the fire on the stove, don't touch it because it's hot. Be careful. That's how fast it happens. So yeah, when a sexual abuse survivor or a sexual assault survivor comes to me and says, my uncle abused me 30 years ago, I'm going to believe you because your body keeps a record of that. It needs to know what to do if you encounter that person. It's literally, it's that simple and that complex at the same time. So this video ended up being long and a mix of multiple things, but I hope that it gave you a little bit of information about memory, about trauma, just so if you are somebody who's experienced it, you don't feel like, oh my God, I'm crazy. Like, I have these big emotional reactions for absolutely no, it's not no reason. Something happens. Your brain remembers that thing that happened and wants to protect you. So it sends out the signals. And yeah, it may be that it was a false association, but your brain doesn't know that in the moment. All it knows in the moment is, hey, I got to keep you safe, right? So that's why I always say go to therapy, because therapy will help you retrain your brain, right? Retrain so it's not so quick to jump in. It can differentiate. This is something that happened in the past. This is what's happening in the present. I am safe. I can keep myself safe, etc., etc. I also hope that if you are somebody who has never experienced sexual abuse, you have a little bit of an understanding of what's going on for survivors right now, right in the description box below. I will leave a link for the blog I actually wrote that goes a little bit more in detail about memory, about how it all works, more in-depth information. Read it, share it, comment on it. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to receive information, more information about things like this, you can of course always send me a message, comment below. I really want to hear from you all. I will upload again Sunday. Sunday is more about the Fearless Me Challenge, and then next Thursday will be, I don't know what next Thursday is going to be. Please, please, please take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.